of all things from the beginning, and from ancient times things not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all of my purpose. Please bow for prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord God, I would that all men would come to the knowledge of your Son, and that they would, all of us, will stand before you one day to answer for how we lived in this life. Your word directs us, commands your followers to pray for those that hold leadership positions, those who are held responsible for the things that are done in our communities and our counties and our state and in our nation. And Lord, I pray today that this board, the Bedford Township Board, would make wise and good decisions that will bless this township and all of us who call this home. We pray and we ask this to honor you in the name of the Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. At this time, due to Mr. Peroni's absence, I will need a motion to appoint a moderator for this meeting only.
I'll make a motion to have Clerk Hirschberger moderate tonight's meeting only.
Support.
Is that Joe?
Yes.
Can you call the roll?
Yes. Ms. Jandasak?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
And Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye. I had to think about it. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Steiner. Can you please call the roll?
Ms. Jandasak?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
And Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye. The consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to approve and place on file the minutes for July 19th, 2022 regular meeting and the resignation of Diane Smith from the Green Initiative Committee effective immediately.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Mr. Steiner, supported by Ms. Jandasak. Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandasak?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
And Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye. No presentation, so public comment. Comments are limited to 5 minutes, and they are for board agenda items only.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. I want to talk about a couple of things here. The first would be definitely a kudos to get this resolution for the Bedford Library renewal ballot proposal taken care of as soon as possible so that the Library Advisory Board can begin to educate the public so that everybody is fully aware of what the millage and whatnot will be covering. Additionally, the fire chief contract, I certainly hope that you're generous. This is a job that is beyond any other job in this township. It's very demanding of him, and it's not just for a 9 to 5. This is a 24-hour job. And the situation all over for all fire departments are that these men and women are definitely in shortage. So we have to do things that will make it a positive spin so that we can continue to build up our crews here. The other issue I have, and looking just over here at the paperwork, this waiver on Erie Road for the land division, I'm not opposed to it. The problem comes with how it was divided, in my opinion, and I know that they have their legal rules that they can follow, but when you look at it, there is the one to the far left, crosses over the back of the one in the middle. That puts somebody's front yard in somebody's backyard. I live in that because that's the way the old method was. We had a lot of record It's not because they felt that that was the way to be doing things. There was a family involved here and stuff, and it has really created a mess for my lifestyle and anybody else's that'll follow through when somebody has their front yard crossing across your back. So it really is not conducive to the well-being of either party. And we always hear, well, I live here. Well, the same situation is on Temperance Road down by Secor. The people put in a business. We want to be able to do this because we're going to live in the house next door. Take a look. There's for sale signs. So things are never forever. And so that's what has to be looked at. It really would be conducive if they could get rid of that little bit of front yard to the backside of the people that have the house in the 3 acres. So that's all I'm saying. It's just a heads up. Other than that, rally on.
Thank you for your comments.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I heartily endorse the resolution to approve the Bedford Township renewal ballot proposal. The township building, township library, is one of the destinations for many of the citizens of this community. It's been recently improved, and it's a great place. I like to have a book in my hand. Maybe it's because we spent so much time in the law libraries, etc. A book in the hand is different from the Kindle. It's different from looking at it on your computer. I heartily support that. I also support the resolution for the tax millage. Those are areas in which we have supported as citizens over the years, and we should continue to support them, and I think we will. So I support your endorsement of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. New business. I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $502,782.09. Fire District Fund, $20,511.67. Park Operating Fund, $8,482.87. Fire Equipment, $30,996.02. Downtown Development Authority, $2,281.50. Library Operating Fund, $7,892.66. Stony Brook Brookwood SAD, $375. Deer Creek SAD, $334.50. Building Department, $2,383.88. Sewer O&M, $1,048,774.81. Trust and Agency, $5,373.42, for a grand total of $1,630,188.42.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Jandisek. Any discussion?
I just want to say that for the sewer O&M fund, why it's so much is that is to pay on the bonds for the sewer treatment plant and that project as well. That's why it is so high.
Can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Hirschberger,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
and Mr. Montry.
Aye.
B, approval of a waiver from a 6-to-1 depth to width ratio for a land division for parcel number 5802008-034-00, 2682 Erie Road.
You taking this?
Is there anyone
Are you taking this one?
here that represents the property? No? Yes?
Hi, Brad Helm, 1860 Apple Creek Drive, Temperance. We're just looking, there's a pole barn on the property. We split it into 2 different lots. We have 2 family parents and a son and daughter-in-law. Son and daughter-in-law going to build. So we had to bring it into compliance due to the pole barn wealth. We didn't want to have to tear it down or move it. just because of where it's at and the cost. We're just looking to put a house in front and one in the rear off to the west side in the back corner. And the frontage is just for the driveway to get up across the creek.
Any discussion?
Brad, when did this come before the BZA? I remember this one.
A couple months ago. And then we realized it was over the 6-to-1 depth ratio, so that's why now it's in
Correct.
front
I
of
couldn't
you. So
remember.
it was
This is the one
approved through the BZA.
where they wanted to make the mother-in-law suite, but that was is this that same one?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve a waiver for the 6-to-1 depth to width ratio for land division for parcel 5802-008-034-00. In other words, it's 2682 Erie Road.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Montry. Any other discussion? Mr. Steiner?
Just a friendly amendment, Mr. Gore. I would say, even though the BZA is its own entity, I would say to reference any of the requirements as set forth by the BZA and also anything from the building department that they must follow in compliance as well.
I'll accept that amendment.
Okay.
Mr. Montry?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
and Ms. Hirschberger.
Aye. Next is C, approval of Monroe County Road Commission contracts. There are 5 separate contracts. These are the subdivisions where the residents paid to have the roads repaired through SAD. And now, just to keep them up in good shape, we want to do the overband crack fills, and these are the ones that came back that kind of need the crack fill at this time. I will need 5 separate motions, starting with the first one, which is Bedford Estates subdivision.
Are these numbers accurate?
Yes. Why?
They're low.
Because it's like $100.
Because we contract with the county and they're out doing the overband crack fill for everyone else, so we get the really low prices because they're doing it, and these are small compared to everything else they're doing.
Okay. I figured as much, but I was like, yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the overband crack fill for Bedford Estates subdivision, Harmony and Melody Roads as presented, in the amount of $115.
Support.
Support by Mr. Gore. Any discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
and Ms. Hirschberger.
Aye.
Make another motion for overband crack fill in Springbrook subdivision, roads of Deepwood and Springdale, in the amount of $145 as presented.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Jandisek. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
and Ms. Hirschberger.
Aye.
Make another motion to approve overband crack fill in Enchanted subdivision, Tennyson and Longfellow roads, in the amount of $260 as presented.
Support.
Support by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
and Ms. Hirschberger.
Aye.
Make another motion to approve overband crack fill in Giant Oak subdivision, the roads of Borg, Valletta, and Greenfield, in the amount of $190 as presented.
Support.
Mr. Gore?
Yes.
Any discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
and Ms. Hirschberger.
Aye.
Last motion to approve overband crackfill for Stonegate subdivision on all subdivision roads in the amount of $505 as presented.
And support.
Supported by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek,
Aye.
and Ms. Hirschberger.
Aye. Next is the resolution to approve the Bedford Library renewal ballot proposal. So I don't know, do you want to say anything about this?
It's self-explanatory. I prepared the resolution and the ballot proposal. You'll note that on the ballot proposal itself, which will go before the electorate if approved by the board tonight, it is reduced by Headley. It's a renewal, and therefore it has to state that it's been reduced. And the same language as used in the previous ballot proposal is used in this for the most part because it is a renewal. So as you would be approving, adopting the resolution which approves the ballot proposal. So happy to answer any questions that you might have, but this is a resolution that's required to be approved by the board to get the ballot on the November election.
I'll make the motion.
Well, I don't know if there's nobody here from the Library Advisory Board.
No.
It must be really important. Didn't they say she's not on the Library Advisory Board?
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it stated at the last meeting that this millage the 2018 millage would last 6 years, if not 8 years? That would give us, if that's the case, that would put us until the next election for this to be necessary, if that's the case. I mean, selfishly, I want the millage because it just makes, without the millage, it makes my life more difficult trying to figure out the funding of the library out of the general fund. But if it's fine that the current millage will last 6 years, if not 8 years, as was stated at the last meeting, I don't understand the necessity of this.
I do know that if they don't do it this time, it will not be a renewal, correct?
Yeah,
It would be new.
It would be, if I may, it would be a new millage if it's not renewed because the last collection will occur in 2022. So it would have to be a new millage as opposed to a renewal. So there will be, under this current millage, there will be no tax collection after this year. Mm-hmm. And then the collection would commence the following year. I think the Library Advisory Board has, and you're the liaison to it, so you know, and I know there might be some differences of opinion here, but by and large, they've been judicious in their expenditures, and there is a surplus, but that surplus could go quickly, and if it's not renewed this year, that money could be used for proper purposes.
I agree.
And for proper purposes, but that would potentially leave the library without sufficient funding as the years click on.
I fully understand, which is why. But that's why I thought we were confidently told that it would last. Makes me, I don't know. It has to be one or it has to be the other. What is the difference between a renewal and a new millage besides the fact that a renewal is easier to sell to the public because of the claim that it's not a new tax? Is there any other difference between the difference of a renewal or if they had to do it in 2 years?
Well, one difference is the renewal is reduced by Headley, by Constitution, so constitutional provision, the Headley Amendment. So it's reduced and it generates less income. A new millage, if it were at the 0.25 mils, would generate more money because it wouldn't be reduced by Headley. So that's one significant difference. This renewal is reduced by Headley. It generates less money than if it were a straight out.
Can you explain that? The reduction by Headley?
Well, the Headley amendment, in a very
No. Yeah, layman
very-
terms. That's fine.
Very brief. The Headley amendment, it's based on collection, and the idea is it reduces based on collection. So instead of, because of the reduction in Headley, instead of collecting 0.25 mils to start, and it can be reduced each year, and it is often reduced each year, but to start, the collection amount will be 0.2449 mils. It could be less next year. It could be less the year after that. So it's going to generate less income. That's just a fact. So I guess it's all according to the preference of each board member, whether you want to move forward, place this on the ballot for next year. The library board made their presentation. You'll have to decide based on that presentation. What I heard is similar to what you heard, and that is they have a surplus. But if you don't renew this, that surplus will be used up, and you'll be at a point, if you wait until the next election, where there may not be money, and then you run a deficit, and then it comes from the general fund of the township.
I agree fully.
That's food for thought.
Rick?
Another thing, too, is if we wait and we would decide to put it on a ballot at a later date, one of the things that the residents look at, and we differ on this point, I never would say we sell the public. We don't sell the public, and it was brought up earlier. We educate the public as to what it is. But if we were to wait, what happens if there are other tax millages that go on the ballot? And that's one of the biggest downfalls sometimes, that if, let's just say that there's other things that are going to be renewed in 2 years or be put on the ballot in 2 years, and then we want to say, okay, let's add another one, and this is now a new one for the library. That's when things fail. And when we have some things that are very important to keep within this community and keep funded, this is one of them. So,
Well, if it's important, it won't fail.
you can't say it won't fail. I mean, that's like me telling you it's not going to rain tonight. Things happen. I mean, what about the economy? If the economy takes and continues in a downturn or something, people are going to come up and say, you know what? I'm just going to turn it down because I'm not going to go for a new millage. So I'm for this. I think the Library Advisory Board has, again, done a good job of following the dollars and been pretty frugal. And, some, again, differences of opinion, but what they've spent it on, they've done it appropriately. They have bid it appropriately. They've kept us completely informed, up to date of what was going on at all times. Nothing's been hidden. So I support the library to put this on as presented.
I don't know if it's...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm the same. I don't have a problem with, we put it out to the voters. Let the voters decide. They either want it or they don't. That's not for us to decide, us 7 members. Let's.
So I understand what you're saying. I would say that that's a technicality. With millages, there's a reason that millages go through the township board before they land on the ballot, and that is the purpose of that is there's a reliance on. It's the same thing as why something that goes to planning before it comes to us is. It's kind of, there's a check, and you're putting some trust in the planning department, as well as the public is putting trust in this board that we're not going to put something on the ballot that is inappropriate. So I understand the sentiment, and I agree to a large majority, but I would also say that that's a little bit of a technicality, that there is a responsibility on this board for what we put on a ballot.
Okay, I'm fine putting it on.
Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Bedford Library renewal ballot proposal.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Bruning. Discussion? Mr.
Mr.
Steiner?
Gore, please add as presented for the November 8th, 2022 election.
I'll do a friendly amendment to that.
Mr. Bruning?
Support it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Montry? No,
Oh.
I'm sorry. Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Nay.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye. The motion passed. Next up is E, approval of tax levy resolutions for the 2022 tax roll. There are 6 resolutions. Each one will need to be approved separately. Is there any questions before I ask for a motion? Then I'm just looking for motions.
I'll make the first motion to approve the general operating levy at .7654 cents per 1,000 of taxable value.
Support.
Supported by Ms. Jandisek. Discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
And Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
And Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye.
I'll make a motion for the, to approve the fire operating levy for 1.7359 per $1,000 of taxable value.
Second.
Second by Mr. Steiner. Any discussion? Please
Ms.
call the roll.
Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
And Mrs. Hirschberger?
Aye.
I'll make a motion for the transit system levy for .2378 cents per $1,000 of taxable value.
Support.
Support by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Will you please call the roll?
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
And Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye.
I'll make a motion for the police levy of .3864 cents per $1,000 of taxable value.
Support.
Support by Mr. Gore. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
And Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye.
Make a motion for fire equipment millage of .4899 cents per $1,000 of taxable value.
Second.
Second by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
And Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye.
Make a motion for the library millage of .2449 cents per $1,000 of taxable value.
Second.
Second by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
And Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye. Next up is approval of the Bedford Township Fire Chief's contract, which is before you. I know Mr. Goldsmith and Mr. Nance both went over this, so it has been looked over by both attorneys. Is there any questions, Mr. Steiner?
So the revision came out to us mid-afternoon today. Of course, I couldn't do anything with it till this evening. So I would just ask that whether it's a copy at our dais at night or at any time, we've talked about it before, if we could either highlight the changes when we do these or put a note to
We
it.
did. We didn't send that one out, sorry.
Okay. Because I was doing a speed read.
The one you just received has, we're passing it down, has small revisions.
Yeah, they're very
like
small.
Volunteer was taken out,
Right, in the contract. Mm-hmm. Those were the big ones.
right.
So,
Sorry
other-
about that.
Other than that, I think,
Yeah.
between Mr. Goldsmith, Mr. Nance, and the employee committee, it looked pretty good.
I can just add on to that, if I may. This contract grew out of negotiations, arm's length negotiations, as us lawyers like to refer to them, between the chief and between the personnel committee. A contract that had been drafted by Labor Counsel, Phil Nance, had been used as a framework that was modified through the negotiation process. Presented to me. I made further modifications to that, which is what you got in your packet earlier. Then Phil Nance, I asked Phil Nance to take a look at it. He made some not any substantive changes, but a few changes that I thought were well taken, and so I incorporated those in, and that's what was circulated. But we had discussions before about an at-will contract. This is not what I would refer to as an at-will contract. This lends some continuity to the chief's employment here as the fire chief under the supervision of this board, and it does provide for a termination of the contract, an early termination of the contract, but only in extreme circumstances. So the board's not relinquishing control. But it would, if there was a termination of the chief's position, it would have to be for cause, just cause, and that's okay. Every contract that we have does not have to be an at-will contract, and the purpose for the personnel committee and the chief arriving at that is to provide continuity for both, so that the chief knows that he's the guy here for the next several years, and the board knows that, and the only way that would be interrupted is if there was some misconduct on his part, and we trust that that will never happen. And I've been told that things are running smoothly at the department since you appointed him at the chief, so that's good news. So that's all I have to add to it.
Thank you. Any other comments? I look for a motion.
Nothing further. I'd like to make the motion to place on file the employment agreement as presented to us this evening, effective July 19, 2022, by and between the Bedford Township Board of Bedford, Monroe County, State of Michigan, hereinafter referred to as the Township, and Robert Van Klingeren, hereinafter referred to as employee. And with that, I'd like to also welcome the new chief aboard.
Support. Supported by Ms. Janusik. Discussion?
So, at the beginning of all this, my whole issue is I wanted it at least opened up to the township-wide for a chief search. And that didn't gain any traction. So it's not that we didn't select the right chief. I just wanted a broader search done. I don't feel like I got that, and that's why I'll be voting no on the contract.
Okay. Any other?
I voted no all along, Bob, so it's no surprise. All right.
Can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Janusik?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
No.
Mr. Bruning?
No.
Ms. Hirschberger?
Aye. The motion passes. Next up is comments from the public. Comments are limited to 2 minutes for each individual.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. I've been coming to these board meetings for almost 8 years. I can't think of one time board meeting I've ever come to I've been so grieved. My soul is grieved, angered, assaulted by anger at some of the things I read on social media. It is beyond belief what I've read. As a police officer, I always thought I was held to a higher standard because the public demanded of me. It demands the same of you. How you act, how you speak. We have First Amendment rights, but that doesn't mean how we should speak. It should be anything but life. And that's not what's happening. You have a responsibility as elected officials to represent everyone in this community. And everyone in this community has respect. And when that is not shown to this community, there's something wrong. It needs to be called out. I wanted to call it out tonight, but my anger just, it infuriates me. We can say whatever we want on social media, but God sets the standard for what we're supposed to say. Not the Constitution. God sets the standard for what he says. And I'm going to read what he says about how we're supposed to speak. He says, you want to know how a person is? You listen to what he says or what he writes. It says, out of the goodness of your heart, goodness will flow. Out of the evil of your heart, evil will flow. It said, out of the mouth, the heart speaks. You want to know how somebody is? Listen to what they say. If a fool keeps his mouth shut, nobody knows he's a fool. What we say really has an impact, not only on the people that you say it about, but their families and the community. You people need to police yourselves. If somebody gets out of line, you need to speak out. I don't know what else more to say except, you know what? We deserve better than this as people in this community. We expect Washington to act righteously. It needs to start here, right here at the local level. Don't expect anything out of them if it doesn't come from here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elaine Kuntz, 4212 Casey Drive, Lambertville, Michigan. I want to thank you for approving the library levy. I think that I, as a former member of the advisory board, as former president of the advisory board, as chairman of the last campaign, I am pleased that you support it. I think that Jody and the current library advisory board has done a great deal. I don't know if you watched CBS Sunday, but there was an excellent piece on there just a week or so ago about the role of libraries. And Jody and the Library Advisory Board are moving Bedford Library into that echelon. I am appalled, I hope this doesn't offend you, that the liaison to the Library Advisory Board would not support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. Thank you for approving the library millage. For those who have never seen it, go over and watch the little kids run in there when they have their kids programs. Place for community meetings. A lot of places don't have a place to go, but the library has facilities for community meetings. All of these things are important to our community. It's a destination where it's continuous living, continuous learning, continuous everything. That's where we need to continue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Kevin Wexler, 4105 St. Anthony Road, Temperance. I agree with the young gentleman that spoke earlier. I'm appalled by some of the social media comments, and I am purposely not naming names because they know who they are. We're all part of Bedford Township, and you better start acting like it, because guess what? Elections are coming up again, and you will be voted out if this keeps happening up. Nothing has changed. I've supported a lot of the businesses here, and some of the businesses that I have supported, I won't support again. And if you're not happy with what's going on here, there's a solution: resign. Our township has to do better. You guys all represent us. We're all part of Bedford Township, and I'm tired of it. So please, watch what you say.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. I agree. We need to have respect, but that left a long time ago, about 2012, began the downfall, and it has gotten worse over time. I could, too, name names. I could give you incidents. I could give you specifics, but I won't do that. I'm very upset. I'm happy that the millage went through, but the trust in the board is not putting something inappropriate on a ballot. It's just like telling the truth is not nasty campaigning. That's not it. If it's the truth, it's the truth. Sorry about your luck. You should have disclosed it. But you make it sound like the voters don't have the intelligence to make a choice. So you're to look after our monies. So with that fiscal responsibility comes putting the things on the millage and let us decide what we want to take out of our pockets. I do have a question. I would like to have somebody check into this. There is talk that there is somebody was cutting down trees on a pocket park. I don't know why that would happen, and that the wood was taken by a specific person. To me, that stuff should be coming before the park board, and from what I hear, that's not happening. And I don't know who's paying for this stuff to be cut down, or who's giving the orders. But you know, this is what happens. We have our social media, and it's gossip, and 99% of it's not true. But you know, I don't know what else to do. We need to stop some of this social media. Just get rid of it. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for your comment.
Josh Naircore, 7948 Wiseman Road, Lambertville. The library is a community asset, and just hearing Jody speak about everything that the library has to offer is a lot more than what I thought the library had to offer, honestly. And honestly, for myself, I'm going to start taking advantage of some of the resources they have. And honestly, I don't know why, but it feels like to me the library needs a new liaison because they can't support what the library needs, even though they're supposed to work with the library on different things. So I'm just ashamed of that as well. But we can decide if we want to put the millage through. It's our tax dollars. We can decide what we want to do with it. I don't know why there'd be a problem with it, just putting it on the ballot for us to decide as voters. Other thing too, I'd like to congratulate Bob in becoming the chief. Hope he does a great job as well. And that's it.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Seeing none. Comments from township board members. Mr. Steiner?
I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but people, I will say, have been respectful of the way they addressed some things this evening. But I do want to say, the way it was stated, when you talk about this township board needs to watch what we say, and you're absolutely right, 100%. But I will tell you, I'll be the first one to tell you, not all of us are up on social media posting. I myself, I don't post on social media, period. So I'm not worried about it for myself. And that's not from an election standpoint or anything. That's just, I know myself, and I don't have time for social media, and you've probably heard me say it here before. I despise social media. And many people hide behind social media, and that's one of the biggest reasons I despise it. And that's a societal thing that we have going today, that people don't know how to talk to each other. That's a real problem. And I said this probably 15, 20 years ago. I said, as our kids continue to grow up and the way they're growing up, I said, we're going to be in real trouble someday because they don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to work together. They don't know how to negotiate. If they can't do it from a computer or a phone or a tablet, they don't want to do it even. So it takes a lot of hard work. But again, I think that most of you that know me will attest to the fact that you will never see me up there on social media doing those kind of things, and I will always speak highly of this board for those that decide to take that route, because there's other people on this board that also don't post. As far as I know, I only hear of things when somebody points out that something's been posted. So I just want to make that real clear. So, and I appreciate your comments. Like I said, though, when you say this board, I just want to make sure that we don't get painted with a brush when that's said. That's all.
Mr. Montroy?
Yeah, I want to say that I'm thankful and appreciative of Mr. Gore and Mr. Bruning voting against approving the chief's contract this evening. I think it takes minimal level of discernment to recognize that neither of them hold any animosity toward the chief, and they clearly do not hate him or have a specific problem with him, but they are voting their conscience and voting what they think is right that may or may not have anything to do with the chief. And I appreciate that, and I'm thankful for it, and I'm glad I think it's a very important positive out of this board that may or may not have been in the past where just because you know something is that you're gonna lose a vote, that you actually vote your conscience and vote what you think is right and have an actual reason behind why you're making your decision. So I would like to thank both Trustee Bruning and Trustee Gore for that. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Gore?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Montre. Again, everybody have a great evening. Sorry for my absence the last couple meetings. Kids in school, I can only take vacations from when they're out of school to when they go back, so I got no control over that. But anyway, I hope everybody has a wonderful and safe rest of their summer. Enjoy it. It's coming to an end quickly. Be careful. Shortly, the school buses will be out. Some of the parochial school buses, please yield to the red lights. Chief, welcome. I know you do a great job. As Mr. Montre said, it was just the process I wanted to see different. I did not vote my conscience one time on a previous board that I served, elected position at the school board, and it came back to bite me, and I swore I'd never do it again. So that's why I took the stand that I took. So again, everybody have a great rest of the summer.
Thank you. Mr. Bruning?
That's the same with me, Bob. It was just disagreed with the process is all. So nothing personal at all. I'll help you with whatever you need. Also, I'd like to congratulate Will Bruck and Joe Bellino on successful campaign wins. In case our township didn't know, Paul didn't even carry Bedford. So great job, Will. Everyone have a good night.
Ms. Jandisek?
I don't have anything. Just everyone have a good evening and a good rest of your week.
Thank you. Well, the August election is over. It went very well. I want to thank all my workers. They did such a great job. I especially would like to thank Nancy and Angie in my office. They did a lot of long hours with me, a lot of work, but we pulled through. I also want to thank my 16-plus chairpersons who helped run this election. Each polling location has a chairperson, and half of my chair people were new. They had never chaired an election before. They did amazing. I was very proud of all of them. So kudos to all of them for a smooth election. I also want to remind everyone that because of the election, the next board meeting will be held on August 23rd, not next week. We're not going to do them back to back. So August 23rd at 7 p.m. And if there's nothing further.
You reminded me of something. We need to make the first week of August never have a township meeting, so that because that's Fair Week, and I like to go to the demolition derby.
We'll try and do that for you.
All right.
All right, meeting adjourned.